Hello, and welcome to the Content Bite, a podcast for freelancers who use their words to make money. I'm Rachel Smith, a freelance journalist, copywriter, and content producer. I'm also the founder of Rachel's List, a jobs board and community for Australian writers and other creatives.
And I'm Lynne Testoni. I'm a journalist and content writer as well. Rachel and I are your weekly co-hosts, and every week we bring you all kinds of tips, tricks, and some fabulous guests to help you make the most of your freelance business. So, Rach, I'm a firm believer in using your strengths. I started my business because I love words, and our sponsor, Rounded, helps me handle the numbers because it's an easy invoicing and accounting system.
Yeah, I use it as well. You can make data-driven decisions about your rates, which clients to prioritize, and I love the gamification of it all.
You love gamification.
I do. I love how you can set what you want to earn that month and see it go up. It's great. Yeah.
And I think it's really good because the rounded reports are great for creative professionals. And I think that I love the fact that my accountant can go in and have a look at my numbers before we have those conversations at the end of each quarter. I think that's really helpful.
And don't forget, if you're a Rachel's List Gold member, you get 20% off the annual rounded subscription. And that is every year, not just as a one-off.
And the details are in the show notes.
Yep. Lynne, you know I run the regular Wednesday writing sprint for Rachel's List members. You're often in there.
Yes, I am. I mean, I sometimes think it's a bit ridiculous that I can't sort of sit there and just work really hard by myself. But having that peer support makes such a difference.
There is. There's really something addictive about it, isn't there? Sitting with
other people all writing together, definitely. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of become an anchor for my week for getting certain things done as well. So I'm really excited about our guest today, Jenny Valentish, who's a former mag editor. She's a book author. She writes a Substack and she runs regular 6-week writing groups for people who have a book in mind or maybe have a dusty manuscript that they want to pull out of the bottom drawer. So I'm really interested to see her take on writers who need that kind of community or maybe accountability as well.
Yes. Oh, me too, because it sounds like she's doing such great things. Shall I read out a quick bio for Jenny and we'll get her into the hot seat?
Yes.
Okay, Jenny Valentish primarily freelances for The Guardian, but in years past, she's edited Triple J Magazine and Time Out Melbourne. She's the author of 5 books, including the Walkley-nominated memoir, Women of Substances, and her newest, The Introvert's Guide to Leaving the House, which sounds really good. And I think our listeners will really enjoy that. She's guest lectured at universities in memoir and feature writing and twice ran a feature writing course for Writers Victoria. Now she focuses on teaching writing independently through online workshops and 6-week writers groups via Zoom. Welcome, Jenny.
Thank you so much, Lynne. What an intro. I realised, though, maybe I sound like a jack of all trades and master of none, because that was quite a list.
No, I think it's weird when you hear your bio being read out. You think, wow, it's quite overwhelming.
Yeah.
I also think a lot of journalists are a bit of a master, jack of all trades, because we've got fingers in many pies, and that's part of the skill. Yeah, that's what we do.
Oh, totally, we have to.
Yeah. Well, Jenny, our paths have crossed over many years. I know you were a Rachel's List member a while ago, and more recently I've been reading your Substack. But for those who might not know you, give us a bit of background about your career and how it's all evolved.
Okay, sure. Well, you can probably detect an English accent. So, yeah, I grew up in the UK and I don't have a degree in journalism. I have a completely useless degree in American studies. So my way in to journalism was actually through a ye olde fanzine, which I suppose would be like a blog now, although even blogs are kind of extinct now, aren't they? Don't know what the 2025 equivalent is of a fanzine. I was very ambitious, and it was this glue sticked thing that I put together and printed, and I'd get it sold in record shops, including like Tower Records in the States, and it got quite a bit of coverage, bizarrely, because I realized at a young age, you need a hook, you need an angle. So I gave it the angle of being a groupie fanzine, which I wasn't. It was supposed to be kind of funny. Like it was called Slapper, the Groupie's Guide to Global Bands.
Cute.
And that works in one sense. Like it got me loads of attention. It got me columns in magazines. But the flip side was, of course, that it wasn't the best reputation to garner. and people took it sometimes quite literally. So it was
Yeah.
my first introduction to setting yourself up as a bit of a patsy for your writing, which I've done ever since. Now I think
Mm,
about it.
mm.
But anyway, so then from there, I from having these columns, I started working at. Well, I did a bit of time at a crime fiction publisher called the Do Not Press in London, and it was literally just me and the publisher, and it was amazing because if you can imagine, you're sharing a room with someone who is just teaching you everything they know. So I can still hear his voice in my head to this day, whether it's about formatting or grammar or whatever it is. So that was incredible. And then I moved into magazines. So I worked at an adults magazine first as their sub-editor for a couple of years, then a guitar magazine as their features editor. Then I moved to Australia. I worked at the now defunct Ralph magazine that kind of
Oh,
Oh,
last.
yes.
we remember that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got quite a few friends who worked at Ralph. I think it was a great training ground. You had to be really clever with your words, didn't you?
Well, actually, I loved that about them because the language was very much theirs. And whenever you work at a magazine or newspaper, you get given a style guide, and theirs was hilarious.
Yes.
And then from there, I edited Triple J's magazine for 4 years, and then Time Out magazine. And then I went freelance. So now I live in country Victoria, and I mainly freelance for The Guardian, but some others too. And I write books and I teach.
Oh, fantastic.
Mm, what a
I
good
think
mix.
was Mark Dappen the editor when you were at Ralph?
No, he was before me, and he wrote a book about it, didn't he? Sex and Money, I
Yes.
think it was called.
I
Yeah.
love that book. It's a great book and it really describes that culture at Ralph. So I do, maybe I've got an affinity for that, but it's a clever book. Mm.
Well, I read it before I started there, like I speed read it.
Yeah. Good prep, good
Good
prep.
Oh my
grounding.
God. Yeah.
So you're in country Victoria. Sounds lovely. I
Mm.
love the title of your latest book, which is coming out soon. It's at the end of May. The Introvert's Guide to Leaving the House. And I think that maybe being in country Victoria, are you an introvert? Do you like that quiet life?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's funny though, because my friends, when I started writing this book, were like, "Are you an introvert?" I was like, "Yes." I think people expect introverts to be just very shy and retiring, but
Mm.
I mean, the most popular definition of it is somebody who their social battery recharges when they're on their own, and it
Yeah.
gets drained when they're with other people. And the more you're with, the more people you're with, the more it gets drained. So I think that's a really great definition of it. But yeah, living in the country, it's it's really good. I did notice during the pandemic, though, when we couldn't go to cafes, because I do work in cafes a lot, I did struggle with that because I think as an introvert, you do sort of need to be around people. You just don't necessarily want to talk to them.
That
Yes.
is so true. And we are famously, I'm the introvert and Lynn is the extrovert. So she gets her
Totally.
energy from plugging into social occasions and talking to other people. And mine is when I get home and I can just go, oh, I'm
Yeah.
home and I
Mm.
don't need to talk to anyone.
And we wouldn't guess that, would we? Because, you're an outgoing podcast host and a bringer together of people. So it's not always that obvious.
No,
No, no,
no.
it's true though. I mean, writing this book, did you learn that there is a world where people, like us who are introverts and don't really want to, constantly be out there and might be uncomfortable with self-promotion and public speaking? Is there a world in which we can get over that and become great at it without feeling that dread all the time?
Yeah, it's tricky, wasn't it? Especially for people our age. I don't know. I think we're probably all Gen X.
Mm. I'd love to be Gen X, but actually I'm a baby boomer, but yes.
For today, honorary Gen X. Yeah.
Honorary, thank you.
But it was drummed into us growing up, you don't sell out and you don't
Yeah.
promote yourself. So it's really tricky then to go, oh my God, a publisher or whoever is expecting me to have a big following. How do I do this without compromising myself? So I do talk about that a fair bit in the book. Things like showing people behind the scenes is quite a good one. So, for instance, I've got a friend who's a florist and she'll show you how she'll do videos of how she puts together her blooms. Some authors they tell you about the journey to publication.
Mm.
Athletes will show you their training regime. So that's kind of good value for money for people on your Instagram or whoever, whatever it is, because they feel like they're getting to understand how you do what you do. And then things like public speaking, honestly, for me, it's a combination of prep, practice, and beta blockers, which
Yes.
I would highly recommend. And they don't at all sedate you. They literally just block your adrenaline, which
Yeah.
means, okay, that's one less thing you have to worry about. You know that your voice isn't going to get robotic. You know that you're not going to run out of breath.
I need to get into those. I need to I need to Google those after this.
Yeah, well, I just got them for my doctor literally for public speaking because then there's nothing, addictive or anything like that about them.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, it's just practice, isn't it? It's knowing that
Yeah.
you've got a role, you're on stage there, and you're like a doula for the audience. You're there to provide them with something that they need. So if you look at it that way, like what do they need rather than, oh my God, they're looking at me, I think
Yeah.
that helps.
I
Yeah.
definitely think it's interesting you talk about beta blockers because there's a podcast called How to Own the Room, which is all about effective public speaking. And a few people have mentioned that when she gets guests in, their secret weapon, and quite a few people have mentioned beta blockers, which is
Oh.
interesting. Yeah, it's a common thing.
Before my first book came out, I was going to a social anxiety group. My doctor sent me there because I thought, oh, I'm going to have to talk about the book in public.
Mm.
And we did this thing where you all had to read out loud and rate how anxious you are. And then, of course, we all went out for cigarette breaks because we were all anxiously smoking at the time. And then someone mentioned beta blockers then, and I was like, why are we here?
Yes, sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Amazing.
It sounds from your bio that you've got lots of different income streams. How does that do? Or do you think that you need that when you're a writer these days to be a bit sort of, what's the word, a portfolio career?
Yeah, definitely. Unless you're lucky enough to have such good relationships with an editor or editors that you're practically on staff.
Yeah.
Most journalists I know will do other things too, be it teaching, be it writing content or doing PR and marketing. And I think it's important to let people know that often a journalist or an author has an invisible benefactor. So
Yes.
when you see someone who's totally committed to just writing a book and that's it, they might have some inherited wealth, they might have a partner who's supporting them. And I just think it's good to be realistic and honest about those things. And if you don't have that, you are very likely to have to hustle and do multiple things. So, yeah, my main thing is teaching.
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
I mean, we talked a little bit offline, I think, over email about, when you do have someone who is a bit ahead of you and can give you that advice and those gold tips and those things, you really hang on to, like that guy you mentioned at the crime publisher, you remember he's in your head, these days, even now. So tell us, why you love that and a bit about the workshops that you do and, what you offer journos at the Crossroads and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I realized I really loved teaching people and giving them a leg up when I was editing Time Out because we had an internship program with the university with Monash. And over the years that I was there were probably 100 interns that came in and out. Some of them have actually done super well now. Like one of them's artistic director of Emerging Writers Festival. One of them's podcast content manager at Nine. Can't take credit for that, but it was great to be there in their earliest days and really pass on everything I knew, the little tricks and just writing hacks that I'd been taught along the way, like how to structure things, that kind of thing. And I get frustrated when I see people teaching writing where there's a huge focus on things like procrastination or writer's block, which I know are things that people experience. But if I was going to be paying for a course or some kind of workshop, I would want the tools.
Practical writing tools.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Not a shoulder to cry on, but
Yeah.
practical writing tools.
Yeah.
So I really make sure that I just give every trick I've ever learnt, and I don't feel like it's at any detriment to myself or my own career. I think it's just going to see some really good writing out there. And I'm not taking credit for the good writing because these are tricks that have been taught to me, obviously.
Mm.
Good writing raises everybody up, though, doesn't it? It raises the
Yes,
whole industry, the standard. Yeah.
Mm. But you do
absolutely.
coach journos, don't you? Like just a one-on-one sessions who might be moving from journalism into, other areas, or how does it work?
It's more either sort of quite new journalists, people are trying to get their first articles placed, or or established journalists who've just kind of hit a bit of a roadblock because so many of their usual editors have moved on, say. They've got to try and establish new relationships. Times change. So often I'll do one-to-one Zooms with people where we go through their pitches
Yeah.
and really
Yeah.
tighten them up, figure out maybe rearrange it so it's got a stronger angle, and then we talk about where they might pitch it. And then I also have a feature writing workshop as well.
Mm. I know you mentioned though you don't offer long-term mentoring, and we talked a bit about that, especially like perhaps from someone who might be writing a memoir and how it
Oh my
can be
goodness. Yes.
tricky. It can cross over into perhaps they don't need a mentor, they need a psychologist.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got pretty good boundaries. So
Yeah.
Oh,
I
you need them.
absolutely,
Mm.
Yeah.
yeah, I absolutely do things like, the 6 week writers groups, and I do one-to-ones on Zoom, and I do manuscript assessment, but I won't do a sort of ongoing relationship where someone's like, can we just book 10 sessions or do it, ad nauseum? Because I think I'm just really interested in working on the work and not on
Yeah.
the person. And I think sometimes if somebody's interested in a long-term scenario, it's more about them needing accountability, them needing a life coach, maybe,
Yeah.
and I am all about, tightening the work and really getting to the nuts and bolts. So it's not a great fit for me.
Yeah.
So that cry on your shoulder thing, you don't necessarily want to be doing that. You want to be working on the words.
I'm just not qualified to do that.
Yeah.
Because especially because I teach a lot of memoir, so people are really cracking open a can of worms for themselves.
Yeah.
You probably do need to be seeing a shrink while you're doing that, but I would hate for the lines to become blurred and for
Yeah.
me to become that person because I don't think you can be both.
Yeah.
I can totally relate to that. Yeah, I've certainly coached people, and there's a couple I've said, I think this is not about the writing. This is about something you need to work through, and you need to see somebody, a professional for that. And I think that's quite valid too.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
something I learned when doing the 6 week writing groups as well. Some people will be there because they want to be heard and maybe feel like they've been heard for the first time in their life, which is fine. I make space for that. You can't tell until you start who's like, I desperately want to get published as soon as possible, and who's like, God, I've been carrying this around for a long time, guys. This is what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's
Mm.
talk about those 6 week writer groups. Do you do them all the time, like every 6 weeks, or do you have a bit of a break in between? How does that work?
I pretty much do them every 6 weeks unless I'm going off to the UK.
Mm.
Usually, I mean, they were always on Sundays, but now I'm doing Wednesday evening ones as well. So it's Sunday at 12 p.m. and then Wednesday at 6 p.m. And there's only 4 people in each group plus me. And what we do is everyone submits up to 1,000 words a week. And it doesn't have to be memoir. It could be, articles, screenplay, fiction, essay. And everyone reads it the day before we meet. And then on the day, everyone gets about 15 minutes where they give us the context of what they wrote. I lead with some feedback, and then everyone else gives feedback, and we take turns. I also provide them with written feedback. But I think having, just a 4 person group works really well because they often form really strong relationships, and there's been loads of in real life meetups, and because people come to these groups again and again and again, and then they've done things like they've house sat for each other, or they've met up in Sydney, and occasionally I've met up too, and it's been really incredible.
Oh, that's
They
lovely.
sound amazing. I know
Mm.
you mentioned you like them to be kind of accessible to as many writers as possible. Is that what makes them different to other groups that might be really expensive and perhaps prohibitive to get into?
Yeah, I have had a few writer friends who run sort of similar things kind of scold me and say I should be pricing things higher, but I know now because I've been doing it about 4 years that would price a lot of people out who've really benefited from it. And
Mm.
similarly, a lot of people will do online courses and you take the time to make it and then it just makes money for you without you having to do anything. But I'd rather just meet people online and see how they're flourishing or see what's not working for them and, try and improve that. It's really rewarding to actually work with people. So yeah, I try and keep the price down. I just ask that it's paid up front because otherwise people can pull out and it becomes a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
Yes, fair enough.
Mm. Wow.
So you've taught hundreds of writers, and do you think what is the sort of magic moment that comes out of being in like a formalized room rather than just sort of beavering away in your book in your spare room or in your study?
Well, it's definitely those connections, but also feedback. It's interesting. Like, yeah, we get very few men in the writers' groups, and I know that to be universally true.
Yeah,
And I think generally men are sort of less interested in feedback and just want to create their thing and put it out in the world, whereas women are more interested in how is this going to be affecting people and hearing from all different viewpoints. So it's really useful in that sense. So when I was writing The Introvert's Guide to Leaving the House, I actually had my own little group of people that had books out, and just oh God, to get their feedback was completely invaluable. And I'd never done it before. I'd always worked in a silo. But somebody was great at cracking jokes, so, you can have that one. Um, Other people were like, okay, well, I don't understand that bit, so I'd have to rework, and it makes it more audience ready, I think. Because one
yeah,
thing that I think is really important for writers to master beyond just, working on their craft is to think about what the audience needs as well. So you
mm,
get some people who've written, especially memoir, where it can be quite a sort of relentless, grueling, uh, very introspective affair. And you can tell that they're not sort of thinking about the end reader, let alone the publisher, which, maybe you shouldn't think of the publisher when you're writing. Maybe you should just be thinking of the impact on the reader. But you can tell when people haven't considered the reader and what they need.
That is so interesting. When you think about the process of doing that and getting all that feedback from different people and from you, it maybe makes it less scary to put your book out into the world because you've already got so much heard from so many people about what they think. Can you imagine authors that don't do that process and then it's suddenly out in the world? It must be terrifying.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, you've completely tested the water. You
Yeah.
do hear about, because, I'm in quite a few sort of huge Facebook groups of writers across the world. And you do hear about people saying, "Oh, I had a terrible experience giving my friends the entire book to read and they tore it to shreds or something." But I think if you've got a group of people and someone facilitating it and sort of talking about what good feedback looks like,
Mm.
then it's invaluable.
Wow. What have you seen some of your writers, go on to achieve, in those 6 weeks? Have you got any good stories to share?
Well, two books have come out of them. Obviously, they weren't literally just written in the groups, but they were absolutely workshopped in the groups. Shauna Smith's Going Under has come out of these groups, and Shauna's just been incredible. Like, has formed so many friendships, and people all turned up to her book launches. And then Samantha Byers has got a book coming out in July with University of Queensland Press, which is a novel called Dead Ends. So seeing those works and immediately picking up on that promise and thinking, oh my goodness, what have we got here? It was really exciting. Other
Mm.
people, one person was working on screenplays and she's got something with Netflix at the moment, as in they're considering it. Other people have got articles published that they worked on in the group. Some people are revisiting old material. We all have that thing that we've just left in the drawer on a disc for 10 years and it's just sitting there like a accusation.
mm,
They've dug that up and sort of become reacquainted with it.
mm.
Mhm. Mm.
I think one of the things that strikes me when we're talking is that when I was a young journalist, there was so much more staff in like newsrooms, in the newspapers and the magazines I worked for. So there were older people, experienced people giving me lots of feedback. They had the time. And I do think that's where what you're doing is sort of fills that gap because I know I do work for magazines occasionally in newspapers and they don't have the time. They don't have the
Mm.
staff anymore to
Yeah.
spend time with you creating your craft. So maybe this is why people need groups like yours, do you think?
Yeah, I agree. With the Guardian, they do tend to share a Google Doc with you and show their edits and can you give us another line here? But often with other publications, you'll file something and then you won't hear from them and it will come out.
Mm,
Um, Maybe things have been changed, maybe they haven't, but yeah, you're not getting that valuable feedback that you need. So Yeah, that's why I really love working with journalists or people wanting to be journalists because you can show them, there's quite an accepted structure to a feature article, for instance, but you might not know that. And you can break the rules, of course, once you know the rules, but someone's got to tell you.
Mm. I
Mm.
think those days, because I worked in as soon as I got out of uni, I was working for a magazine house. And those days, those red pen days of having someone slash your work with a red pen and teach you, it was done by multiple editors who took me through, different things that I'd written. Just the most valuable,
Yeah.
time in my career, I think,
Mm.
really. And you're
Yeah.
right, Lynn, it doesn't happen.
No,
Or
it doesn't
maybe it
happen
does, but
anymore.
not as much anymore. Yeah. That's why people crave groups and community.
Mm. I dream that I'm back at magazines all the time. I would say literally once a week, I dream that I'm working at magazines again. And yeah, I miss that whole, I don't know if you remember if this was the same for you, but you get a brown envelope on your desk and the brown envelope would be full
Yes.
of all the different versions of the story up to now.
Oh my
Ah,
God.
yes.
Basically, so that if it comes out in the finished magazine or newspaper and there's a mistake, we'll know who's done it. But
Yes. Yes.
Oh my
but yeah, I
God.
miss all that.
And the blue dye lines that you had to mark off
Mm.
on a Friday afternoon or whenever.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, so many
Oh, the hours.
times.
Well, almost every single magazine I've worked for has closed now.
Mm.
So there's only the only one still that I worked for that's still around is the Woman's Weekly.
Yeah, that's
And
never going to go.
almost, yeah. Well,
Mm,
hopefully not, but still, they're all closed. So there's just no opportunities anymore.
Mm.
mm, mm.
Yeah, it is tough when someone's going, where can I pitch this? I've tried X, Y, and Z. And you're like, is there
Mm.
something after Z?
Mm.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what are the skills that do you find like beyond the words you're talking about other things in these groups, like that writers need to know, other skills they need to build?
I think a resilience around rejection,
Yeah.
for sure. Especially if you're a journalist, I get people who are just gutted because something's been knocked back twice. I'm thinking, I've had 5 things knocked back 7 times this week.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
move it along.
Yeah.
You change it slightly and you move it along.
Yeah.
So I think it's good to be able to talk to people who've been published either in books or in journalism who can go, no, that's completely normal.
Yeah.
If you're going to give up at the first hurdle, maybe it's not for you, but let's just get around that and let me reassure you that this is just the way it is. It does take a lot of time and energy, but it's just part of it. And as long as you kind of factor that into your time and understand that there'll be those setbacks, you're going to be okay.
Hmm. Mm.
So do writers jump into your course at any time or do they do the whole 6 weeks? How does it work?
Yeah, they need to do the whole 6 weeks. It's really about that bonding as well. I mean,
Mm.
you can swap it up every week and present something new, but
Mm.
you want at least that consistency with the other people in the group, or maybe consistency with what you're showing them so that it has a good accumulative effect for you.
Yeah.
Mm. Have you got the same people coming back, whenever they're writing a new book or, just continuing on with the 6 weeks, they just keep going?
Yeah, I've definitely had someone, we were trying to work it out. They've probably come to between 10 and 12 of these groups now.
Wow.
Lots of people, usually in every single group, there'll be between 1 and 3 people who've done it before,
Mm.
Yeah.
which is great.
Oh, that's so nice. It does stop you doing what you want to do on your Sundays, though. No Sunday lunches for you.
No, but I work 7 days a week, but the plus is I only work probably 4 to 5 hours a day, but I just accept that it's going to be every day.
Yeah.
Mm. Interesting. Well, you've also got a really thriving Substack. So tell us why you started that and how it fits into everything else you do.
Yeah, that's had quite a few fits and starts. I started with MailChimp, and I think I did it when Women of Substances came out, and it was quite obviously plugging that. And then it just kept, I was doing that thing where you just keep plugging yourself when you've got a new project and then doing nothing for the readers in between. And then I realized, come on, you've got to be consistent and not just make it about plugging. So when I moved to Substack, which is a lot more intuitive and looks nicer in my opinion, I
Mm.
decided, right, it's got to be weekly. It's the general theme is things I wouldn't dare pitch to my editors. So it's a bit gnarly sometimes, I can't lie. Occasionally I'll say, hey, I've got another place in my writers group, or hey, I've got a book coming out, but I'll try and sort of keep that to a minimum and out of the way of the main thing. So that, again, like I said earlier, you're thinking about the reader's needs.
Yeah.
Does it give you a good income or is it a free Substack?
It's you can pay if you like.
Mm.
And I think at this point I've got probably about 900 subscribers and only about 40 a page, which is
Mm.
a pretty normal split. And I
Yeah.
keep it super low. To subscribe to mine costs the same as one coffee per month.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That
But
is
you
super
know,
low.
people are subscribing to so many now. I get that they're overwhelmed. It's like, well, I can't give everyone a coffee a month.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that something you're always trying to build up though, or do you just like organically feel like it's going to happen if it's going to happen?
I thought it would just be a slow build, but I did do a post on the OnlyFans model who slept with had sex with 100 men in a day, and that kind of went viral-ish and got me quite a few more. And so now you're kind of keeping half an eye on chasing the viral.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because, at the end of the day, everything I do feeds into everything else. So someone reading the Substack might think, oh, I like a style of writing, and then realize I teach it. And someone who does my 6-week writers course might go, ah, I feel like I'm ready to have my manuscript edited now. So you're trying to, given that you're stretching yourself so thin and all these revenue streams are quite modest, you're
Mm.
really trying to make them work hard into feeding into each other without being too obnoxious about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. I remember with my, writer's website, my actual freelance business website, I never mentioned Rachel's List on it really. And then I decided, well, why shouldn't I just have a page that's optimized for Rachel's List? And it's one of the most popular pages on my website and obviously drags people over to that business. And yeah, you can keep everything separate, but actually it all does feed in and people get interested by what you do and follow you around the traps and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, definitely, and especially when Rachel's List is actually such a fantastic service for people. Like, why would they not want to know about that?
Yeah.
yeah, or know about like they I guess you're inherently curious, aren't you? You want to see, well, what does that person do when they're not doing
Mm,
that or whatever.
Mm.
So it's good
yeah,
to sort of have,
Mm.
yeah, them interconnected in some way.
yeah.
So
Mm.
what does a typical week look like for you? Is it bits and pieces, or do you set certain days like Monday I'll do my Substack, Tuesday I'll do, obviously you do your writers things on certain days. How does it work?
I try and be quite strict about what I'm going to work on because, as I've discovered in the last week, actually, because I wasn't too strict, if you've got like three big things you've got to work on, like a whole Substack post and two articles, you just keep zipping between the three over a day and nothing gets done. You feel frustrated and you feel like you're not working fast enough. So I try and really be super strict about, okay, today is the day I'm only working on X. Some days when you don't have the same level of concentration, I just go, okay, I acknowledge that it's going to be an admin day. I'm going to be
Yeah.
doing emails and bits and bobs that will get in the way of my other days. Every day starts with a good gym session to get things started, and then probably going to a cafe with a printout to I find if you look at writing on paper, it's the creative juices flow more and you can mark things up with a pen and then I can just go home and do the grunt work.
Mm.
Mm.
Oh, that sounds interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, something we love to ask all our guests about is their favorite tools or tech tips. So what would you be lost without?
I'm pretty low tech, so I use my notes app and
Mm.
then sometimes I use Scrivener, though I find I kind of waste time and I end up in Word in the end. But I kind of like the look of it. And then, as I mentioned before, Substack is just really intuitive to use. You literally just drag a picture and drop it, and you just type straight into it, and it looks kind of nice. So I don't want to sound like I'm sponsored by them because I'm not, but that's a favorite.
Yeah.
What about ideas? How do you kind of collate them or store them or keep them?
Evernote. I have Evernote open for my to-do list and my pictures list. I don't know why. They could just equally be Word docs, but I think sometimes you need to look at something on a different background to differentiate in your head. This is
Mm.
stuff to do as opposed to this is what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
use Evernote for that.
I love Evernote. That's the only reason the wrap up gets written every week
Is
is
All
it?
right.
Evernote. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a great way to clip stuff or just create, like you say, a separate repository of things.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like you're using it the way it's intended to be used, whereas I'm just typing into it like it might as well just be a Word doc, whereas you're using all the features.
Yeah, I use it mainly to clip stuff that I find interesting or just if I'm going down a rabbit hole and then I go back and revisit what I've clipped and go, oh, that's crap or no, get rid of that or whatever. Or that's interesting. The other thing that I do as well is I use, is it quoted or it's like you can select something, say that there's a cool bit of writing that you like or an idea or something, you can select it and just press, I think it's Option S on the keyboard, and it saves it into this really cool area and it gives you the credit of the person and
Oh,
everything where you got it. It's great.
that's so important because I reckon a lot of plagiarism, and this hasn't happened to me, thankfully, but I reckon a lot of plagiarism is actually accidental from where people have been cutting and pasting relevant things and notes, but
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
haven't properly cited it, and then they don't recognize it as their own when they start to
Yeah.
write.
No,
Don't
Yeah.
it's
recognize it
so
as not their
important.
own.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
this is good. It gives you the exact credit and the link to where you got it. So I
yeah.
love it. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
I actually also use Rounded, so I'll give your sponsor a shout out. I use that. I've used
You'll
it for
love that.
years. Yeah. It's so useful. It's like, all my invoices and expenses are there, and the dashboard shows me where I'm up to. It's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. It's nice not
Mm.
to have to think about those things because you
Yeah.
really
Mm,
want to free up your time to write.
Yeah,
mm.
definitely. I don't want to think about money unless it's coming into my account.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting, Jenny. It's such an interesting career. I love the fact you do all those different bits and pieces and somehow it all comes into one sort of
Yeah.
ecosystem or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
So
good way of
tell,
putting it.
Mm.
yeah. So tell us where audience can find you and check out your book. So maybe even pre-order your new book coming out.
All my writing coaching services are on valentish.net.
Mhm.
And then just to be annoying, all my journalism and book stuff is at jennyvalentish.com.
Hmm.
And you can pre-order the book there.
Mm.
Okay. And are your writing groups, have they ever waitlisted or how to?
Yeah, so I've actually, good point. I've got a closed Facebook group, but anyone can join if they're interested in writing. And it's called Sundays We Write. And so whenever I've got a new one coming up, I will post the fact there first. And also in that group, people just post things like grants or competitions or interesting articles they've seen. So it's not just me going spam, spam, spam. It is a
Mm.
nice community.
Oh,
Ah,
cool. Well, we'll include all those links in the show notes.
Thank you.
Yeah, but that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you again, Jenny, for being our guest this week. And thanks to everyone who's listening. Leave us a rating and review because we love that, don't we, Lynn?
we love it. We love a rating and review. Yes, it's the neediness in us.
Yes,
Yes.
very needy.
And I'll make sure all those things are in the show notes and
Yes,
find out how to connect with Jenny.
that's right.
And I'll leave you a review.
Oh, yes, please do. That'd be good.
Make us feel good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
See you next week,
Yeah.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again to our wonderful sponsors, Rounded, easy accounting and invoicing software that helps freelancers run their business with confidence.
And don't forget, if you're a gold member of Rachel's List, you can check your welcome emails for an exclusive discount code on the annual subscription rate. You can also find it in the private Facebook Gold group or just contact us at hello@rachelslist.com.au.